Hey everybody, JM Creates here. I am back from a little bit of an absence. Speaking of back, that was the reason for most of my absence. I threw out my back. I had a back spasm, I guess, back strain, whatever you want to call it. All I know is it was painful. And I was laid up for a couple of days. If I tried to do a video, it would have been a lot of, it would have been some probably like really slow, kind of groggy talking intermixed with a few like, ow, ah, ooh, ow, thrown in there. So I decided, to just let it go for the day, for the couple days, and that was that. Also, for those of you who know, it was also my birthday just the other day, and my daughter's birthday the other day, so I was busy with that too. So anyway, that's why I was absent for a while. Sorry, my children. I did not mean to leave you. I'm still being a little weird because honestly, I went back to work today and I am like incredibly tired and I may be a little loopy. So this video could go any one of a number of ways, honestly. Like, well, let's all find out together now, shall we? I don't know why I'm sniffling all of a sudden. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was apparently there was this, I think it was a tweet. I don't even know if it was a tweet or a statement or whatever, because quite frankly, I was not paying that close attention to it because, again, I was in blinding pain and on medicine. But apparently some fantasy writer somewhere, which is kind of ironic when you think about it after you hear the story, if you don't already know this. There was a fantasy writer somewhere who was complaining that they went into a bookstore and you look at the fantasy section and all you see are things like Tolkien and Lewis and Jordan and like all these other like, incredibly famous fantasy writers who wrote incredibly famous fantasy books. And her complaint was, this is what a modern day fantasy writer has to deal with. We're competing with dead people. Okay. Yeah, and your point being? Like, this woman was so genuinely upset that she felt the need to go online and scream from the virtual rooftops about how unfair it is for a modern fantasy writer to have to compete with people like Tolkien. The guy who invented the fantasy genre. Like, I'm sorry, but your book wouldn't even exist if his books didn't exist. Now, I know there could be arguments about who actually invented the fantasy genre, whatever. I'm not going to get into that right now. If you want really, really well-researched videos, don't come to my channel. That's not going to happen. I get in the car and I talk. If you want really well-researched pieces, go listen to that Umbrella guy or just some guy or somebody. The guys. Listen to the guys. They apparently have really, they're very good at researching things. I tend to just, shoot off the cuff and do comic book reviews. So anyway, my point being, she was like so upset by this fact that a bookstore was carrying on the shelf things like The Lord of the Rings and the whole Lord of the Rings series and, the Wheel of Time series and all these other like classic fantasy series, because it doesn't leave room for her book. But here's the thing that people don't seem to understand. Like, I'm sorry that there is limited shelf space in a bookstore. That, first of all, that is, you live in America, you're trying to sell your book in America, that is called capitalism, because the things people want are the things that businesses will sell, because otherwise they won't carry them. A business needs to sell product, not just have stuff on shelves. They need to sell those things and then restock them and sell them again. That's how a business works. If your book is good and you get like, let's say you get like good reviews, good word of mouth, maybe you get some positive coverage, somewhere in the media, which, let's be honest, if you're a certain if you've got some kind of certain backgrounds or character traits nowadays, that'll guarantee to get you some media coverage, even if your book's terrible. Guess what? A bookstore is going to try your book out. They're going to carry your book and they're going to sell it. And if you've got a good agent or you're working with a good publisher, guess what? They're going to work to get your book on bookstore shelves if they're confident in that. And if a book company, if a publisher was confident enough to bankroll your book and publish it, they're going to get it out there. And if they're not, then they're just not a good publisher. So instead of getting mad at bookstores for carrying books that have continued to sell for decades, these books, there's a reason why they're still on the shelves. It's because they continue to sell over and over and over again. Go into any bookstore or any store, any comic book store, whatever, that carries graphic novels. Guess what you're going to find? Most likely you're going to find copies of on the shelves. You're going to find The Dark Knight Returns. You're going to find The Killing Joke. You're going to find Watchmen. Why? Because these things are classics and these things continue to sell year after year after year. They continue to sell. I would never make a graphic novel and then bitch and moan that, well, I've got to compete with Frank Miller and these other guys, like, why are their books still on there? Like, no. I mean, I know they're not dead, so I can't say that, competing against dead people thing. But still, it's just stupid. They're there because they sell. That's why the bookstores continue to carry them. If you can't even understand that, your view of the world is insane. Like, no one, the bottom line is, we've kind of come to this point in history where people seem to think that they are owed success. You are not owed anything. If you make a good product, you could make a great product and it could still fail miserably. And that's the bottom line. It happens all the time. There is really good stuff being made all the time that fails terribly when it comes to sales. They could be critically acclaimed, whether it's a book, a movie, a game, whatever it is. I can't tell you how many times I've seen games that were like fantastic video games, but nobody bought them. They didn't sell that well. And so they never got sequels. They never got, any of the love. Guess what? It wasn't because the game was bad. It just didn't sell for whatever reason. There could be any one of a number of reasons why. It could be lousy marketing. Maybe the marketing of the product was bad and nobody was interested in it because the marketing stunk. That's not the creator's fault. If you write a really great book and nobody ever picks it up, no one will know that it's a great book. And you have to get people to pick it up and try it first before they can acknowledge it being really good or really bad. But first you've got to overcome that hurdle. And that really is the job of your publisher and you as an author. In this day and age, we live in a time now where you as a creator, whether you're a writer, an artist, a comic book creator, whatever it is, a game maker, an indie game maker, whatever you are, part of your job is to also promote the things that you make. That is the world we live in now. It's just that simple. Back in the day, when Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings, he couldn't, as the book was published or leading up to the publish date, he couldn't jump on Twitter and tweet every day, hey, check out my new book. It's coming out on Tuesday. He couldn't post a bunch of stuff leading up to it like, hey, here's all the different things that you'll see in my book. Like, there was no, you can't have that well-coordinated campaign where the creator is also helping to spread the word. Nowadays, you can easily do that. And it's on you as a creator to do that. Is it fair? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because you know what? Just because you're a fantastic writer or a great artist or whatever does not mean you're a great promoter. They're two different sets. They're two different skill sets. They just are, and that's just the way it is. And so, it is a little, yeah, it can be unfair. But listen again. We're not living in a fantasy world. We're living in the real world, and in the real world, things are unfair. So you've got to figure out a way to overcome it. If you're not a great promoter, you've got to figure out a way to get the word out. You've got to get friends who are great promoters to help you. You've got to figure out ways to do it. If you're not a good talker, for example, let's jump into let's turn this into comic books now. Let's because that's usually my focus. Let's talk about comic books. If you are someone, how many times, if you listen to Ethan, or if you listen to, Mike S. Miller, or a lot of these guys who have, or even like, your boy Zach, you listen to any of these guys, a lot of them will tell you the key to having a successful comic book nowadays and doing the crowdfunding, the big money and all that, and getting funded and all that, they'll tell you the key is you've got to start a YouTube channel, and you've got to be on social media, and you've got to promote yourself long before you even put the book out or the idea of the book out. You've got to get out there, and you've got to entertain people some way or another, just so that they know who you are, and you gain followers on Twitter, and you gain followers on Instagram or on YouTube and whatever. And here's the thing. That is true. But YouTube isn't the only avenue. If you are not a good talker, if you're not somebody who can, for example, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you're not a person who can get in a car and talk for 15, 20 minutes to no one, just talk to a bunch of listeners while you're driving a car about a topic, and hopefully keep them entertained while you're doing it, well, then maybe YouTube is not for you, or you need to do a different type of YouTube content. But YouTube is not the only form of social media that you could use to gain an audience. Look at this Icarus and the Sun campaign. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. This guy is raking in money left and right. He's got a huge campaign going now. I don't even know what he's up to. The last time I looked, I think he was close to $500,000. And he doesn't do YouTube. His whole thing comes really from Instagram. That was where he built himself up. He built up a giant following on Instagram, and now he's putting out a book, and he's raking in the money for this book. That's another route. He's taking a different route. There are different routes to success, but the key, the bottom line is the creator is still out there hustling and trying to get the word out about their product. And that's really what it boils down to. Yes, if you've got a publishing deal with someone, they are, of course, going to help you promote your book. So if you submit, let's say you're making a comic book, let's keep it in the comic book realm. I know we started in the regular writing realm, but let's keep it in comic books. Let's say you get signed on to do a book through, you pitch a book and you get signed on by, let's say, one of my favorites, Alterna Comics, right? So they sign you on and they want to put your book out. Now, they're going to do a certain amount of promotion because they want the book to sell too, because they make money that way also. But they rely on you, and in fact, it's in their contract. I believe it's actually in the contract that you sign, if you sign on with Alterna, that you have to actively promote your book as well, which is an insane thing that they have to put that in the contract, but they do, because people just won't promote their own stuff, which is absurd. But if you want to be successful and you want to compete against all those old dead guys, or just old guys, maybe they're not dead yet, you've got to promote. You have to promote. You can't just rely on the publisher to do it for you. The publisher will obviously promote your stuff, but you can't rely on them and them alone. to do it for you. Those days are over. No one is going to put, even, and jumping back to like regular books, no one's going to put a giant, multi-million-dollar ad campaign behind a book, especially a fantasy novel. Not nowadays. It's just not worth it to them. They're not making as much money as they used to. Unless you're someone who is a proven moneymaker, like you're a James Patterson, or, if it's a Tom Clancy thing, which obviously Tom Clancy is dead and yet still continues to put out books, which is pretty awesome. Apparently he's a Force ghost when it comes to writing. No, it's just his name. It's a brand at this point. But my point being, unless it's a Tom Clancy book or a James Patterson book, someone like that, or for a little while, Dan Brown, no one's going to put a ton of money behind promoting your new book. They're just not. Okay, if, let's say, I don't even know her name, but let's say the woman who wrote the Twilight books decides to put out a new book in the Twilight universe, a new Twilight book. Yeah, the publisher's going to put a lot of money behind that because that was a huge franchise, made a lot of money. If J.K. Rowling decides tomorrow that she's going to, well, it's probably a bad example because she's just rewriting all her books right now anyway on Twitter, just by saying, hey, you didn't know it, but this guy was actually gay and that guy was actually gay and you were actually a transvestite rabbit, it's just whatever. That's beside the point. But if she decided to put out a real Harry Potter book, a new Harry Potter book, guess what? Yeah, the publishers are going to line up the bucks to promote the hell out of that thing. Because that's a franchise. That's money there. You're gonna actually see TV commercials for a book. Think about that, because that's really the key. To put like an ad in a magazine or something, that's really not that expensive, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. And they'll do that in very targeted ways. If this is a book that is for, specific audience, they're going to find things that audience reads and put ads in those magazines or newspapers or whatever it may be. Pop-up ads on a website. That stuff is all fairly cheap to do, honestly. Think about the last time you saw a television commercial for a book. And I'm going to almost guarantee you it was for a James Patterson book. Because he's pretty much the only one they do TV commercials for. So if you are so concerned about your book being crowded out on the bookshelves by books that have been bestsellers and that have been noted as classics, that have maybe even started the genre that you are now writing in, and you're bitching that those books are still on the shelves of bookstores even though they continue to sell decade after decade, you're an idiot. Get out there and promote yourself, become a success, and then guess what? Your book will be there until long after. Write a really good book. Earn it. Earn your spot up there. And guess what? Years from now, when you're dead and buried, your book will be on there, and some idiot punk years later will be complaining that your book is still on the shelves, not leaving room for their book. Do you understand? See, now this is the way this could have gone, and it took a while to get there, but now it's getting there. Now I'm getting PO'd. It's because my back is bothering me. I'm generally pretty calm. But come on. Stop being such a baby. Grow the frig up and make... Oh, by the way, frig, if you don't know, frig is just a thing. It's not a curse. It's just a word that we say. It's a fun word to say. Because you can't get in trouble for it. But seriously, grow the frig up, write a good book, and if you write a good book and it flops, deal with it. Write another good book. And then hopefully that one will succeed. If you've got the talent and you're writing good work, you're making good work, eventually you will get noticed. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll live in squalor for the rest of your life. Is that fair? No. But boo freaking who? Life is not fair. Okay? Guess what? People walk out of their house at 20 years old and get run over by a bus and never have the chance to get married, have kids, have a family, have a life, leave a legacy, or anything. Is that fair? No, of course it's not fair. But that's life. That's the way the world works. Freaking deal with it, okay? Take the most that you have, take your time that you have on this earth, which you don't know how much you have. It could end tomorrow. It could end right now while you're listening to me rant and rave in my car as I'm looking for a parking space. Use that time wisely. Use that time to do the best you can. And if it's successful, great. If it's not successful, deal with it. It's fine. Maybe you won't be the giant success. Maybe you won't be the one who makes millions and millions of dollars and options your book into movies and gets turned into theme park rides and everything else. But you know what? That's okay. Were you happy? Were you happy with the work you did? If that's the case, if you were happy with the work you did, if you think you did a good job, if you really did your best and you feel like you put together good work, then good on you, and move on with your life. Be happy with that. Be happy that you were able to do something wonderful, creative, and let that out of yourself, that came from you. You created something from nothing and put it into the world. And if even only a handful of people read it and enjoy it and remember it and pass it on to their kids and their family and everything else, and maybe to their friends and share it, you know what? Yeah, you're not going to make millions and millions of dollars off of it. And yeah, that sucks. But you know what? You've touched people. You've left a mark in the world. Maybe it wasn't as big of a mark as you wanted it to be, but you don't get to choose. Okay? Just do the good work and then put in the hustle to promote the damn work. Instead of just bitching and moaning on Twitter that you're not getting a fair chance because there's dead people who've written classic works and it's crowding yours out on the shelf. Well, hey, deal with it. You're writing a fantasy novel. You know how many freaking fantasy novels get written every year? Like 1 million of them. Half of them don't even get actually published on paper. So if yours is being published, you should be happy about that, because most of them just get posted for free on some website somewhere because somebody just wants to get their story out. So anyway, I'm going to calm down now before I end up pulling out my back again just from yelling. That's probably the most heated I've gotten in any of my videos. So anyway, that's it. It was very nice to speak with you again. I missed you all. I hope you're happy to have me back. And thank you for all the birthday wishes from anyone who wished me a happy birthday. I will be back with more comic book reviews and other, hopefully, more calm videos. And I will talk to you all soon. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs up anyway, just because, you know, what else do you have to lose? Is it really going to hurt you? Like, honestly, come on. And subscribe to the channel. If you like my videos, subscribe to the channel. It'll be fun to have you. We have fun here. Usually we're all about fun. I'm not usually ranting and raving like this. And follow me on Twitter. I'm at jam_creates. I just had a really funny interaction on Twitter, posted a funny picture, had some fun with Edwin Boyette and the guy who created the ferryman, whose name is escaping me at the moment. We had a fun little go at each other on Twitter. We had a good time. Check that out. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Follow me on social media and other stuff. And if you say something, I'm probably going to say something back. So comment on the video. All right. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace out.